Welcome, Negronis with Nord, episode 65. It is a short week here. We have tomorrow off. Short weeks are always hectic, as I'm sure many of y'all know, which is why today I am drinking a athletic, non-alcoholic beer because I still have a decent amount of work to do tonight. Negronis are not in the lineup for me right now, maybe in like 2 or 3 hours. I had also a crazy week last week. We were out in LA for the Sephora squad launch. It was incredible to meet the new squad. We had amazing speakers. We had Patrick Taw came and did a master class, the founder of Summer Fridays, the founders of Tower 28 and Crown Affair spoke, and Selena Gomez walked us through the new Rare Beauty collection. But for me, the most impactful part was just meeting the squad, seeing them all kind of living out this surreal, incredible moment in their lives, this impactful, transformative moment in their careers. If you were on the fence about applying this year, we're going to stop talking about Sephora Squad at some point, but I would just encourage you to get in the mindset of applying next year and getting yourself ready to do that. I guarantee most of the people that made it into the squad and all the conversations I had, they did not think they were going to get it. It is really hard to get. 60 people do get into the squad, and the only way to do that is by applying. So you never know. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. It is wild how many interviews I've done about this Shein influencer trip. I talked to the Washington Post, I talked to Ad Age, I talked to some national radio thing. I talked to the Wall Street Journal. We're doing another interview for Australian national radio. People are obsessed with this trip. They are obsessed with the drama about it. Look, I don't know if I have much more to add other than the video that we did last week. So if you haven't seen that and you're interested, we walk through it a bit more. I want to touch on the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light situation. Dylan put out a video drinking a beer, which I loved, and talked a little bit about her experience. So one of the things Dylan mentioned was that nobody from Bud Light had reached out to her after the collaboration. And look, I actually understand that it would be difficult for Budweiser and Bud Light to publicly make a statement and defend Dylan, while I think that morally that was probably the right thing to do. I do understand the business complexity, the amount of chaos that was happening inside of Bud Light. I understand that once a fire is burning, they were maybe reticent to add fuel to that fire. And so it would be difficult for them to publicly come out and say, hey, this is not okay. We don't agree with this. Again, while I believe that that is the right thing to do, I can get in the mindset and understand why it would have been difficult for them to do that. I cannot understand how somebody from Budweiser did not reach out. The CEO of Bud Light was all over the morning talk shows, talking about the collaboration, talking about Bud Light, talking about all of the drama and the fallout and the boycott. It isn't unreasonable to expect that he would have sent Dylan an email. It was not Dylan's fault this happened. She did not create this situation. She has had an incredible amount of harassment and transphobia, and just said that she was afraid to leave her house. All of that because she was trying to sell Bud Light. And she got pulled into this thing that she had no control over. If as a brand you find yourself in a situation where an influencer is taking heat for your brand, what you should do is stand up for them. Guest on the show, Taylor Lorenz. She is somebody that the right wing has focused on as a kind of lightning rod, and she has been the recipient of an enormous amount of online bullying and harassment. And there are times when both the New York Times and more recently the Washington Post has publicly come out and stood behind Taylor and said, look, Taylor is a talented reporter, and we stand behind her. We think that this harassment is unfair, unjust, etc. So I think that ultimately that is what brands should do. I think that if you partner with an influencer and you believe they were acting in good faith, they didn't do anything to potentially embarrass or harm the brand, that, nothing that like was outside of the brief. You ask them to do something, they get embroiled in some sort of controversy because of what you asked them to do. I absolutely think you should stand up and say, this is not okay. This needs to stop. Please leave this person alone. At the very least, reach out and say, how are you doing? This is unfair. I'm sorry this is happening to you. Let us know if we can support you in any way. I think that would have gone a long way. And again, I think that integrity matters. I would encourage influencers to think about that in the partners that they work with. Moving on to a couple of quick questions. First is, what are your thoughts on the lifestyle niche? Some influencer coaches say it is not one. Niche gets thrown around a lot. Is lifestyle a niche? Well, let's think of the definition of niche. Niche is like a small subset of something else, right? It is hard to be like, I'm a niche influencer focusing on beauty. Beauty's pretty ubiquitous. So yeah, it is hard to have beauty as a niche, but it can be a focus, right? Like ultimately, what is important, how you build a following in a community, is that you have a point of view. Yes, it is easier to build a following and to have a point of view if you have a very defined, focused niche, right? If you say that like, what I am going to create content on is 1960s Italian desk lamps. That's it. Okay, well, if there are people out there who are into 1960s desk lamps, well, then they're probably going to find your page pretty easily, right? And so building a following in that niche might be easier than interior design, right? Which is much less of a niche. Yes, starting small, starting focused can absolutely help you to grow your following more quickly. It can be a little easier because there's less competition for quite niche topics. You can become an expert much faster than you can, on 1960s Italian desk lamps versus interior design, right? Which would take a lot longer to build up kind of validation. What is going to make your content stand out and help you build a community is passion, is a point of view, is expertise. Those are the things that matter. And so if the things that you're passionate about and the things that you know a lot about and what you feel like you want to create content on is more broad, yes, it could be more difficult for you in the beginning to build a following. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean you have to find some obscure niche to start in and start there just because influencer coaches say that's what you're going to do, right? I make this show, I talk to y'all because I hope it's helpful, because I think that some of the information I have and my place in running this company and being in this industry for so long isn't out there. I do it as questions instead of having guests come on and things like that, because ultimately I do this for the people asking the questions and the people who are hopefully learning from it. Finding that magic, finding that product market fit, your content with a community that wants to consume it, is much more an art than it is a science. Shows like this and other ones that are giving you advice, influencer coaches, all of those things can help you, but they won't necessarily entitle you to building a community. And so that's, especially when you're starting out, your number one focus should be finding and building that community and nurturing it. And then shows like this can help you kind of scale that, understand how to do the business side better, all of that. But like, the magic is in you. It's not in what a coach will tell you. And look, think of the comp as a great athlete, right? Like, great coaches have a huge role in great athletes' lives, not as big of a role as their talent. Not the normal way that people who have create content like this talk about this stuff. They would say, I can change your life. I can turn you into a full-time creator. I can help you live out your dreams. Luckily I don't make money off this, so I don't have to bullshit and lie to you, because that is a lie. Okay. You talked about knowing your market rate. Nobody really talks about what they charge, and it's different for each niche. What advice do you have for someone like me, 10,000 followers on IG, trying to come up with something to charge for one reel? Thanks in advance. This is Swizzy in SG. I looked at the account. It is, by the way, great content, great engagement, about 12,000, 13,000 followers now, growing nicely, which is good. doing kind of city guide, food, etc. I will say pricing is much more formulaic, I'd say above 50,000 followers. It's harder under 20,000 followers, right? Because if you look at the CPM cost per 1,000 impressions, if we say it's $20 and you have 10,000 followers, that means you should be charging $200 per Instagram. Now, that's fine, and maybe you feel good about that, right? But there's the production side of things, going, shooting the reel, editing it, your time, your likeness. Maybe $200 just isn't enough for you. And so I think when you're sub 50K, I think you have to find a price that makes sense for you. Again, your focus, Swizzy, should be building your audience, right? Like if you can get that Instagram account to 100,000 followers, your life will be, changed pretty dramatically. That's what you should be focused on 90% of the time. If you're getting brand deals that are coming in, the absolute floor, the bottom of what you should charge would be $200. But I'd say 200 to 1,000, depending on how complex the production is, depending on what kind of brand it is, how much you want to work with them, what kind of relationship you want to build. Anything in there would be reasonable. Again, while $1,000 for 10,000 followers doesn't mathematically make sense, for us, it's about considering the production side of things and making sure people are being compensated for their time in building out that content as well. So ultimately, you need to find your happy price and stick to that. But again, eyes on the prize, focus on growing. It appears you're already growing pretty nicely. You've got great engagement, so keep doing what you're doing. You reap what you sow, right? It's important to know when you're in reaping mode and when you're in sowing mode. Sub 50,000 followers, you're sowing. You're planting seeds, you're watering them. It does not behoove you to try and harvest that too quickly because it pulls your focus away from growth of your community, which should be the core focus that you have. As always, everyone, thank you so much. Share if this content does help you. Again, while I do this for y'all, I would always love for more people to listen to the show, watch it. You can listen to it on anywhere you get a podcast. You can obviously watch it on YouTube, but share it with your influencer friends if it's helpful. I'm just trying to help people. So the more people we can help, the better. Keep sending questions in. Thank you. So I saw Asteroid City this weekend, Wes Anderson's new movie. It was stunning. Such a visual achievement. Set design, the coloring, the blocking, everything, cinematography was fantastic. It was also very boring. And I feel like everyone in the theater was obviously a Wes Anderson fan, really wanted to like it. And so like any little joke, people were like, ha 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 ha. But I actually felt the whole experience of watching it in the theater was kind of awkward because like it was so quiet. And I felt like everyone was kind of like, oh, this is a little boring. So it was boring and beautiful, like so many things in the world. So I don't know if there's a lesson there, but